Hello everybody, this is Michelle, and I'm here with a book review. Today I'm going to be reviewing The City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, part of the Mortal Instruments series, book number 1. This series is huge, or at least, the series and then the prequel series. Anyway, this is going to be a very torn review. I am not sure how I felt about this book. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads, and I think that's appropriate because I have a love-hate relationship with this book. I love it, but I hate it. I hate that I love it, and I love that I hate it. So that's good because I think when a book does that to me, it makes me want to see, oh, what can you do any better? Or, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Like, at the same time. So it makes me go out and buy the books because I'm not going to stop finishing it. So, the 3 stars doesn't mean that I'm not going to read it again. And it's actually a very good thing. But, I want to talk about what I liked, what I didn't like. There's going to be one spoiler, but I will warn you when it's going to happen so you can, mute the video and then start it when I make a certain hand signal because that's how I roll. Anyway, this book was very interesting. I felt like the premise was great. I liked the whole world of the Shadow Hunters. I like how the world of the Shadow Hunters is hidden from the mundanes. I think that, how, when I read the back, basically it's like, when Clary Frey heads out to Pandemonium Club in New York City, she hardly expects to witness a murder. And I'm just like, oh my God, really? But honestly, I thought that was a very good introduction for her into the Shadowhunter world. And I thought it was very interesting how, I liked how Jace and Isabella and everybody was very confused, like, what is going on? They had no idea why she could see them, and she didn't even know. So it was kind of cool to have them both figure that out. But I mean, you kind of sort of figure it out when you find out that she can see them and nobody else can't. So a lot of this book was easy to figure out, which I don't like, but I like, because when you think you figured it out, you read ahead and you're like, yeah, see, I was right, or holy crap, I was wrong. So it was kind of neat to do that because, there were certain things that I called, and I called them out loud. Like, I was reading, and there was somebody else in the room, and he didn't care. But I was like, I call it, I know that this is going to happen, I call it. And I read, and 100 pages later, and I was like, see, I called it! So I like being able to, predict it and then be right, or, when you predict something and you're wrong. I mean, that keeps me going when I'm reading a book. Also, I really liked some of the characters in this book were really good. Not all of them. My favorite character was Jace, and I think everybody would agree with me, or I hope everybody would agree with me, because he was awesome. Not to mention hot. I don't normally say things like that about literary characters that I have not seen yet. And when I saw the trailer originally, I didn't know who was who because I hadn't read the book. So I didn't know the guy who is Jace is Jace. So I didn't have that as a guide when I was reading this. But once I figured that out, even that guy's face didn't fit the Jace that I have created in this book. And I honestly felt like he would be more blonde than the guy in the movie that's coming out. I almost pictured him as kind of like Spike from Buffy. But with longer hair. And I thought that he was just hot, and I thought that his attitude was really great, even though he was a total D-bag, because his snarkiness and his sarcasm is just so, his sarcasm? Who says that? Sarcasm. Anyway, I thought that fit him really well, and it developed him as a character, and it made me like him a lot. His confidence, there was a scene where he's on a train and these girls are giggling and Claire's like, oh, those girls are giggling. And he's like, yeah, of course they are. Or something like that. I like all that confident sarcasm that he has. Now, with that said, I also liked Bane. Is that the guy at the party? Magnus Bane? Something like that? The Warlock of Brooklyn. I haven't read this in a couple of days. Yeah, Magnus. I loved Magnus. And I pictured him as like, Adam Lambert almost, because they were talking about like the glitter and the eyeshadow, and like I just imagined like this big dusty like mask with all this glitter and stuff, and I envisioned him almost like Adam Lambert, which is really, whatever, but I loved him too. I think that all of his snarkiness was in the right place, and him as a character, even though he was fairly minor in this book, I thought he was great. And, yeah. So, what else did I like? Because I want to tell you that I did actually like this book, because it's about to sound like I didn't. I really like the runes. The runes were neat. And I think that, the runes on the skin, even though I'm pretty sure they're not, like, actual runes, they're, she kind of created her own runes, I'm sure. But, I think that that's very close to how runes are thought of in the magical community nowadays. So it's the whole idea of like symbols and words have power. So when you write a rune on yourself, you get that power. Now in the real world, it's not quite as literal, but it was still accurate enough that I appreciated that information. So, yeah, the runes were a really interesting twist, I thought. I haven't seen it before, so I really enjoyed that. Now, we're going to talk about some things that I didn't hate, but I noticed. Like parallels between this and other series and books and movies and TV shows. For example, the whole thing reminded me of Buffy. It had a Buffy vibe. So, yeah, there's that, first of all. The second one is the Stela, or Stele, I don't know how you would say it, but the thing that he uses, that reminded me too much of a sonic screwdriver. So every time somebody uses that, I imagine like the sonic screwdriver sound from Doctor Who. So there was Doctor Who parallels for me. I also, there was a definite Star Wars thing going on towards the end. And if you read it, you know what I'm talking about. And I will vent about that later, but that'll be my spoiler, so don't worry about that yet. So there's that. I also felt like the character Isabella was way too parallel at times to Alice from Twilight. Because there was a scene where she's getting Clary ready for Magnus's party, and she's just way too excited about it, and she's like, try this on, oh my god, and she's so super fashionable, and that reminded me a lot of Alice. So, I feel like she's got a little bit more of a than Alice, but still, it was the parallels. I almost envisioned Alice from the movies because of how she was acting, instead of envisioning what I should have been envisioning, which was Isabella. So, there's that. And I think that's all the stuff that I noticed, but didn't necessarily hate. Or, hate, again, is a very strong word, but dislike. Now, we're going to talk about the things that wasn't a really big fan of. The register of this book. I'm a really big priss when it comes to register. I don't like to read a lot of books with a low register. And I guess low register, it depends. It would depend for me. But anyway, this book was medium register most of the time. Like, the word choices, and all of that. Nothing too fancy. But then all of a sudden, she would throw in a word that was so out of place. And they did the same thing in Twilight. Stephanie Meyer did this, especially in the first book. And it caught me then, and it's still catching me now in this book, where you say things like, and I'm using Twilight as the example, I really love Edward. Edward was really great, and I think he's cute. I find that I am irrevocably in love with Edward. Where does irrevocably come from? Like, you just dropped that from outer space, you know what I mean? I know it's a real word, I know what it means, but it just seemed like, what? Your register went from here to here in a word, and then it went back down to here and never returned. So don't do that to me. I hate that. This happened a couple times in this book, but 3 times particularly that really bothered me. One, the sentence was, Jace had propped himself on the porch railing and was assiduously pretending to ignore them. What? Where is assiduously coming from? I have no idea what assiduously means. I should know, maybe, because I graduated from college, but I had no idea, and I had to look it up. And I said it to the guy in the room with me, and he was like, I don't know what that word is. So that stopped me, and I hated that because I was actually in the middle of this book, and I was really excited, and all of a sudden I'm like, what? And I had to stop. The other time was towards the end, and I don't think I have my mark on it, but Simon said something about how guys are laconic and terse. And I'm like, what? You haven't talked like that for the whole book. Why are you all of a sudden dropping words like laconic? What kind of word is that? And I had to stop and figure out what laconic meant. Maybe I should know what laconic means. Maybe the problem is me. But I just felt like I had to stop, which bothered me. The register changed, which also bothered me. And I felt like that was out of character for Simon. Maybe not so much Simon as it was for anybody else. Simon seemed like he could have known what words meant. But still, aren't we talking about 14, 15-year-old kids in this book? I mean, if they were 18, 19, or even in their 20s, I could maybe see them using those words, but I never use those words. I don't know any 15-year-old who does use those words, unless they're making fun of their vocab list. So, yeah, I didn't like that. The other thing that was kind of sort of annoying, which ties into why I think those words happened, was repetition. There was a lot of repetition in this book with descriptors, as overall general descriptors, like thin as paper, for example, happens a lot in this book. Everything is thin as paper. Skin is thin as paper. The ice was thin as paper. Everything is thin as paper. The other thing is just words. Word descriptors, not necessarily like sentences or anything, but everybody's always doing the same action, and I think that was noticed, and so the thesaurus was opened up and we dropped in words like assiduously. So yeah, that was a little bit annoying. The other thing is, I said that I appreciated Jace and Magnus for their snarky, sarcastic attitudes, and that is true. But I did not appreciate the fact that every single character in this book has something to say about something. And we were at Dorothea's house, I think, and I was thinking, well, she hasn't said anything snarky. Then all of a sudden she said something snarky, and I'm like, I'm done. Are you kidding me? We're in the middle of a crisis here. We don't have time to stop and say these snarky things. They only do that in the movies, and this is not a movie. The other thing is, I felt like this book was written like, I want this to be a movie one day, so it was written for the screen, because as a movie, I could read it like I was reading a screenplay, but as a book, I don't think it works. So I'm glad that it's being turned into a movie, because I think it will translate very, very well. I haven't said everything that I had to say, but I don't want to make a video longer than 15 minutes, so I'm probably going to stop now. But if you want to check out the rest of my review, and you can learn what I think about Clary and some of the other stuff in the book, then you can go to my Goodreads. I will post my information in the information bar, so check that out. But let me know what you thought about the City of Bones. Am I the only one who has this love-hate relationship with it? Because I feel like everybody else loves it. But I am totally going to read the rest of the series because I'm invested at this point. So yeah, City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. Check it out!